Hello, Morton 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Today I'm going to show you how to make my husband's famous Snickerdoodles. But if you're going to make cookies, you want to make more cookies. So we're going to increase the recipe by 1.5. Now, fair is fair. I'll let you know this is not a recipe our family made up. We got it from this old Betty Crocker's cookbook that was published in about like 1959. So it's been around for a while. It's not an original recipe, but it's one that we really like. The original recipe, if you want to make just a normal amount of cookies, is 1 cup of soft shortening with part of it butter, 1.5 cups sugar, 2 eggs, 2 3/4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons cream of tartar, 1 teaspoon soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then at the end you roll the dough into balls and you roll it in cinnamon sugar that's a mixture of 2 tablespoons of sugar to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. But of course we want to make more cookies than that, so we are going to take each one of these ingredients and multiply it by 1.5 to get a 1.5 times the recipe. The shortening is pretty easy. We take our 1 cup of shortening times 1.5. Well, anything times 1 is just what you started with, so that's 1.5 cups of shortening. The sugar, we have 1.5 cups times 1.5. Probably the easiest way to multiply mixed numbers is just to turn them both into improper fractions. So I'm going to do 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 on top is 3. That's 3/2 of a cup. And then I'm going to multiply it by 1.5. Since 1.5 was 3/2 here, it's going to be 3/2 again. And then to multiply fractions, I'm just going to multiply the top, multiply the bottom. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 2 is 4. It's a very improper fraction, so I'm going to divide to find out what the mixed number is. 9 divided by 4 is 2, with 1 left over, so I'm going to put the 1 on top. Our denominator stays the same, so that's 2 1/4 cups of sugar. For the eggs, 2 times 1.5 would be 2. I'm going to write that as 2 over 1. And 1.5 is 3/2. Sorry, my parrot keeps talking in the background, but that's okay. He's just cheerful. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And 6/2 would give you 3 eggs. The flour gets more entertaining because it's just a bigger batter mixed number. I'm going to do this the same way. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11, so that would be 11/4 cups times 1.5 is 3/2. That gives us 33/8. And to turn this back into a mixed number, 8 goes into 33 4 times with 1 left over, so that's 1/8. 4 1/8 cups of flour. Cream of tartar, we've already done this conversion once. 2 times 1.5 was 3 eggs. So 2 teaspoons times 1.5 would be 3 teaspoons of cream of tartar. 1 teaspoon of soda times 1.5. Of course, that's 1.5 because we're just multiplying by 1. And finally, we have 1/4 teaspoon of salt times 1.5. 1/4 times 3/2 is 3/8 of a teaspoon of salt. If you don't have an 1/8 teaspoon measure, you can take a 1/2 teaspoon and just take a little off the top, because my students all know that a 1/2 would be 4/8, and that's just a little less than 4/8. For the cinnamon sugar, they both started with 2, and we found out with the eggs that 2 times 1.5 is 3. So that's 3 tablespoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. So our final times 1.5 recipe would be 1 1/2 cups of shortening, 2 1/4 cups of sugar, 3 eggs, 4 1/8 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of cream of tartar, sorry about that, 1 1/2 teaspoons soda, 3/8 of a teaspoon of salt, that's a little less than a 1/2 teaspoon, and 3 tablespoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'll let you stick that on pause for a second. And the rest of the instructions are as follows. In a nice big bowl, mix your shortening, sugar, and egg. You can do that with elbow grease and a spoon, or if you have an electric mixer, that works well. In a separate bowl, combine your dry ingredients, the flour and all that good stuff, and then mix your dry ingredients into your shortening mixture. Roll that into balls about the size of walnuts, and then roll your ball in cinnamon sugar mixture, and bake them at 8 to 10 minutes at 400 degrees. If in doubt, bake them a little bit less rather than a little bit more, because soft cookies in our household are always better than crunchy cookies. Thank you so much. Watch for another video next week. Katie is my cameraman. She's back there. One of these days we'll have her in front of the camera, and she's rolling her eyes at me as we speak. No, she's not. Now she's giving me a horrified expression. She's not rolling her eyes. She just looks surprised. See you next week. Bye-bye.